legislative session. We are convening this public hearing of the Baltimore County Council, which will now come to order. We are holding this public hearing pursuant to provisions of the Baltimore County Code of the following issue. Final landmarks list edition, Oak Grove and settings, which is 0.80 acres, 0.8 acres, 1822 Frederick Road, Dayton. I'll now read the rules of procedure for the following public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak should have registered online, and unfortunately, we don't have anyone who registered. Let me see, each council member will be able to speak. If they have any questions, Caitlin Merritt from the Department of Planning will speak briefly on this request for final landmarks edition. Caitlin? Is Ms. Merritt on the line?
Yep, I am here. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you again. So at its July 14th, 2022 meeting, the Landmarks Preservation Commission unanimously voted to place the property known as Oak Grove in its setting, located at 1822 Frederick Road in Catonsville, County Council District 1, on the preliminary landmarks list. The location of the property along Frederick Road has a historical association with the development of the National Road and Catonsville. Currently, the just under 1 acre lot is improved with a 3-story house with Queen Anne and Second Empire characteristics. The original property was improved sometime between 1834 and 1840 with a 2-story stone structure with a hipped roof by Peter Howes, a local landowner and businessman. And then in 1886, under the ownership of Samuel D. Helfrich, the house was extensively renovated to reflect modern Victorian architectural styles that were popular during the late 19th century and were reflected on other homes constructed in Catonsville. Helfrich's modern Victorian upgrades to the house coincided with the high point of Catonsville's summer home era from the 1880s to around 1900. The commission determined that the property qualified under criteria 1 for its association with development of Catonsville, and under criteria 2 for its architecture as an example of the Second Empire and Queen Anne styles. The nomination was submitted by the property owner, and there was no opposition presented for its nomination at the Landmarks Preservation Commission hearing in July. With that, that is all I have, and I'm available to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Any questions from the members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councilman Quirk.
Yeah, just really brief. First, I want to thank Caitlin and her group for the great job they're doing, as always. And Rob Brennan, he's does great work with this group, and he's a good friend, and I talked to him quite a bit. And I'm also not aware of any opposition at all. Matter of fact, the only people I've heard from my district are very strongly in support of this. So I want to just request my fellow council members' support, and I appreciate everybody's consideration. Thank you.
Tom, it's Wade. Can you let me know where, what's a landmark near this home? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's not too far away from the pool. Is that, Caitlin? Is this the one right next to the pool?
I'm blanking on that for a moment, but it's right. It's not too far from the downtown area of Catonsville.
Yeah.
It's actually right outside of the National Register Historic District.
Yeah. The one I'm thinking is real close to the pool. Wade. It's an oldie. It's definitely one of the older ones.
Right.
Catonsville, and I also have an old one. Mine's in Oella, my personal residence. It's a 1850 house. So these are gems. You know, Catonsville did go through this really amazing period of time where a lot of people from the city would move into Catonsville and have these summer homes, and then they, you know, after summer they would go back to their to the city where they worked, and but consequently had a lot of old homes. Unfortunately, many of them have been torn down since, but there's still a few that are out there. This is one of them.
Good. Very good.
Okay.
Cool.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Merritt. Ms. Belcastro, are there any speakers for tonight's meeting?
No, as Councilman Quirk indicated, or as there are no speakers registered for this evening's hearing.
Since there are no meetings, this hearing is now adjourned. I will now gavel. Legislative day number 18 will now come to order. Please pause for a moment of silent meditation. I will now call upon Councilman Marks, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. There a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of October the 3rd?
So moved.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The journal is approved. Enrollment of bills. Bills 60-22, 61-22, 62-22, 63-22, and 64-22 were passed by the council, signed by the executive, hereby enrolled. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The bills for introduction are as follows. Bill 74-22, sponsored by Councilman Jones, zoning regulations, off-street parking requirements. Bill 75-22, sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins, zoning regulations, uses permitted in the manufacturing light zone, residential uses on adjacent streets. Bill 76-22 is sponsored by Councilman Marks, zoning regulations, uses permitted in the business roadside commercial town center core district. Bill 77-22 is sponsored by also Councilman Marks, Metropolitan District connection benefit charges on irregularly shaped lots. And finally, Bill 78-22, submitted by the administration and also sponsored by Councilman Quirk, is the aforementioned additions to the Baltimore County landmarks list.
Thank you. Let's move on to Bill 66-22. We read that into the record.
Yes, sir. For final reading and vote, the first bill is Bill 66-22, current expense budget, cracking down on auto theft.
All right. Major Douglas Earl.
How are you, sir?
Fantastic, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I too am not in town, but I didn't want to miss this call. You want me to go over just what the expenditure will be and what we're spending it on? I did that at the last one, or what information
sir.
can? Okay, it's an
That's a
extension on
repeat
a
from
450,000. It's additional monies from a $420,000 grant to put additional emergency lights and sirens on one of our regional auto theft task force cars. It's $500 for roof decals, which we generally use larger SUVs when we're dealing with auto thefts, and these large roof decals make it much more readily visual to the helicopter, which we work in concert with routinely. And then the remaining $2,500 would go to putting jackets and shirts on our personnel to identify them under the new legislative requirements.
All right. Thank you very much. Major, are there any questions or comments from the members? Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 66-20.
22. Yes, sir. Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Bill 66-22 is passed. Thank you again, Major Irwin. After all, we know that these car thefts oftentimes is the first step towards more serious crimes. Not that car theft is not serious, but oftentimes this is the beginning to other things. And most of the crimes are committed because people are leaving their cars around. So, okay. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is Bill 67-22, Capital Budget Countywide Improvements.
Okay, Mr. Lafferty?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Good evening. The administration is requesting supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $500,000 to the countywide improvements bulk capital project. These funds will be used to provide a grant to Impact Baltimore Economic Development Corporation for the costs associated with phase 1 of its new Family Community Enrichment Center, which is located on Deer Park Road in Randallstown. This is a nonprofit organization affiliated with the Restoring Life International Church and plans to establish a community enrichment center as part of phase 1. This is a project that was introduced through Maryland, the Maryland State Legislative Delegation District 10, and we request your approval.
Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 67-22.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk.
Aye.
Ayes have it, Bill 67-22 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
I believe that is all the bills for final reading and vote, Mr. Chairman. I think now we move on to fiscal matters.
Okay, we will now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken during the council work session of October the 11th. The witnesses who testified at the work session is available to restate their testimony if needed. I'll now call upon the secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 1 through 14.
Mr. Chairman,
1 through 4.
yes, sir. Fiscal matter 1 is a joint agreement with Remington and Vernick Engineers 2 Incorporated and EBA Engineering Incorporated for on-call engineering services. Fiscal matter 2 is a contract with Prologue Incorporated, comprehensive outreach program for the homeless. Fiscal matter 3 is a contract with Associated Catholic Charities Incorporated. And fiscal matter 4 is a contract with Conduit State and Local Solutions Incorporated as part of the Vehicle Height Enforcement Camera System program.
Any questions or comments from the members?
I'll move the fiscal matters.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 4.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka.
Aye.
Ayes have it, fiscal matters 1 through 4 is approved. Mr. Secretary, next item.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, whenever a contract over $25,000 is awarded by a process other than formal competitive bid, it is required that a copy of the contract be given to the county council and the nature and parties to the contract be announced by the secretary at the next legislative session following award. Tonight, there is only one agreement on the docket. It is a purchase order with the state of Maryland. It is for increased internet bandwidth service from the state of Maryland. It is in the amount of $46,140.
Thank you. No questions or comments? Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is the council's consideration of the county executive's nomination for reappointment to the Baltimore County Animal Hearing Board of Miss Lisa Sedano Luther.
Is Ms. Luther on tonight?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, we certainly appreciate Ms. Luther's continued service on the Animal Hearing Board. And is there a motion to approve Ms. Luther?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch.
Aye.
Guys have it. The appointment is confirmed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please. And by the way, thank you very much, Ms. Luther, if you're listening. We appreciate your service. Mr. Secretary, next item.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 40-22. This is a resolution related to the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation FY22 easement cycle, the consideration of 6 agricultural easements.
Okay. Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. As the secretary has just indicated, the administration is requesting approval of the county's contribution of $1.333 million of the county matching funds to the state for the purchase of 6 easements totaling $4.343 million. The state will pick up the difference in the cost of these easements. These are for 6 properties that were previously described to the council in resolution 125-21, which approved 12 of the recommended easements. These 6 property owners have agreed to the easements, and we request your approval. I also have Megan Benjamin with me, Mr. Chairman, should there be any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Director Lafferty. Any questions or comments from the members?
I'd like to move it, please.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on resolution 40-22.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Resolution 40-22 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 41-22, also submitted by the administration and also sponsored by Councilman Crandall. This is a resolution to accept the donation of land at Trade Point Atlantic Properties 37 LLC to be eventually known as the Sparrows Point Park property.
Okay, Ms. Roslyn Johnson.
Yes, good afternoon, Council Chair.
Good afternoon.
The administration is requesting approval to accept a donation of land from Trade Point Atlantic to be used by the Department of Recreation and Parks for a new park. The land was formerly used as part of a golf course, and so extensive environmental testing has been completed by a county contractor. And in July, the Maryland Department of the Environment provided letters for each of the 2 parcels, accepting them into their voluntary cleanup program. And during park construction, the county or its contacts will follow the mandated protocols as outlined by MDE. And the project will be funded using a combination of federal, state, and local sources. And the county also anticipates that some of the Trade Point Atlantic tenant users will financially contribute to this project. As is designed currently, the proposed park plan will include a LEED Platinum Design Community Center with double court, gymnasium, 2 community available activity rooms, and a concession area. And the exterior features are to include a LED lit full-size synthetic turf, multi-sports turf field, a universally accessible mini destination playground, fishing pier, kayak launch, and a scenic walking path.
Okay, fantastic. Councilman Crandall, any comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to thank Director Johnson and her team, as well as the various agencies that were involved to get us to this point. We mentioned a little bit in the work session as to how extensively the land in question has been tested, and the county is moving forward with eyes wide open and all the due diligence necessary to take over the property from Trade Point Atlantic has been done. So it's been a long time coming, and a lot of work has gone into this, and I appreciate the administration's work on getting us to this point. I can tell you, I've been talking ever since taking office, almost 8 years ago, with the executives of Trade Point Atlantic about a land donation to the community, and it's something that they were willing to do. They never said no. And we just kept the conversation going. And I remember the county executive early in his first term, he pulled me aside after a community meeting, and he asked me if I thought the timing was right to make the ask and really get down into the nitty gritty of making this happen. As I mentioned in the work session, the North Point Peninsula, the neighboring community next to the Trade Point Atlantic property, is a community of approximately 10,000 people, does not have or has never had a community center, faces a lot of field pressure due to a successful Rec and Parks program, recreational council program. So the turf field will be certainly welcomed and well used. And this, if I read correctly in the fiscal notes, this will be the first new park in Baltimore County in a decade. So this is an extremely positive development. My answer to the county executive when he asked me, I said, by all means, please go for it. I think my answer was a little bit more colorful than that, but we were in private conversation, so I'm not going to say what I said word for word. But this one is an important one, and I think one that we'll all look back on once the park is open and people are enjoying the waterfront and the various amenities. We'll all look back on and be proud of our vote this evening. So hope for my colleagues' support on this, and let's get her done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilman Crandall. And any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick and easy question
Yes.
is just to make sure I understand, for the land that needs to be remediated, it looks like if the county has to put out any funding, it's most likely will be reimbursed for that. Working with like the MDE program and open space. Is that correct, or are we looking at some type of general revenues outlay on this one?
Councilmember Quirk, you are 100% correct. Because of the value of the land donation, it's we had it appraised by an independent appraiser, and it's valued at about $2.45 million. So as such, this particular project, the quote that we have for the remediation is about $1.7 million. Because we're using program open space funding, we can use 75% of the value of the land towards development. And so that gives us about 1.825 million. And so we are coming in well under the estimate for the remediation. So that will be state funds through program open space. So you are correct, Councilmember Quirk.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilman Quirk. Thank you, Director Johnson. I know that there were some questions and concerns about the condition of the property, but we certainly appreciate you responding and getting all the documentation to the members so that we all feel much better now. And we certainly are very appreciative of, all the jobs that Trade Point Atlantic is producing down there on that peninsula. And we certainly appreciate the land and look forward to the community coming out and enjoying the park. I can tell you, we had a great time today at the ribbon cutting of the first destination playground in Owings Mills, which was the Ravens destination playground. They donated $500,000 to make that happen, and it was just absolutely wonderful. And so, on that note, are there any additional questions or comments? Councilman Crandall, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the motion. Thank you.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on resolution 41-22.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins.
Sure, I'll vote on Councilman Crandall's land donation. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay, I
Councilwoman.
think that's a yes.
Aye.
Resolution 41-22 passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 43-22, sponsored by Councilman Marks. This is a resolution to approve an amendment to the Perry Hall Community Plan.
Okay,
Mr.
Councilman
Chairman.
Marks.
Thank you very much. Resolution 4322 amends the Perry Hall Community Plan. It adds new language to the design review panel recommendation regarding the 3.8-mile commercial corridor, Bel Air Road from White Marsh Boulevard to Honeygo Boulevard. It basically says that the strict Main Street concept will apply to two sections of this commercial corridor, the east side between and including 8715 Bel Air Road and Blakely Avenue, and the section between Joppa Road and Minty Drive and Juliet Lane. This recommendation was advanced to the council by the Perry Hall Improvement Association, and you heard testimony from the president, Pat Keller, who was formerly director of planning for Baltimore County.
Any questions or comments from the members? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move it.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on resolution 43-22.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Ayes have it, resolution 43-22 has passed. Mr. Secretary. Next question. Next item, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution 44-22. This is a resolution sponsored by all council members to approve the renewal of the cable franchise agreement with Comcast of Maryland, LLC.
Okay, are there any, yes, why don't we start with a synopsis of what we did, Mr. Secretary, and we're going to give you some accolades, you and the team and everybody who participated in a minute. But first, tell us, what did you do? What did you and the team do?
Mr. Chairman, we had been negotiating. We meaning the team that the council designated, which included myself as the secretary and the assistant secretary Adam Phillips from the council, and then we also had OIT director Rob O'Connor, who is on the call or on the WebEx. We also had cable administrator John Davis and deputy county attorney Susan Dubin. So we had some very good people who have been with county government for some time, leading this effort. And we frankly started this several years ago, when when the most recent agreement with Comcast was set to expire. And it was even pre-pandemic, and we were really, to be honest, getting nowhere. I should also note that during the period, we hired the cable administrator, John Davis. We meaning Rob O'Connor. It was really, I think, his brainchild for the most part, and he consulted me about it, and we, had in a kind of a joint effort, felt this was a very worthwhile endeavor to have someone in the county's corner and the council's corner dealing with the cable companies, including Verizon and Comcast. And so John Davis, who is also on tonight, was the person that was selected, and he has done a great job for the last 3 years or so advocating for the county as well as county residents in dealing with the cable companies. And so with that as the backdrop, we negotiated with Comcast. Like I said, we didn't really get anywhere for that first year and a half. And then I would say probably for about the last 18 months in meetings with Comcast, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, there was movement on both sides, as there often needs to be for a successful negotiation. And we were able to, and literally we went section by section of this 16-section agreement, 66 or 70 some pages long, and we just basically hashed it out with them. And some of it was easier than others, and some of it was much more difficult. And we finally got to a place where we could agree on most things, and then finally on everything. And if you like, I can just sort of hit the highlights of what we did. First, we are, of course, maintaining the county's franchise fee at the maximum 5% of gross revenues. as what the cable company Comcast must pay the county for this franchise. Also, for the first time, we have implemented a PEG fee, a public education and government access fee. This is a brand new revenue stream that will be 66 cents per subscriber in the county, and this fee will go directly to the county and will help OIT maintain the county's broadband system. Another mainstay is that we improved the low density requirements in the agreement. We have gone from 30 homes where Comcast must provide service, 30 homes per cable mile, to 20 homes per cable mile. This puts us on par with other large jurisdictions, and in fact, this requirement drops down to 15 homes per cable mile if all the affected homeowners sign up for cable for at least a year. And that is the only other jurisdiction that has 15 is Montgomery County. We also have a cost sharing component that kicks in when the density does fall below 20 homes per mile threshold. It allows rural customers to be combined in one build-out project and divide the cost, and ensures that the build-out cost is on par with Comcast's average construction per cable mile. So there's not an inflation of the cost for individual homeowners. We also preserve the customer service center that's located in White Marsh. We also came to an agreement with Comcast on a liquidated damages assessment. This is a way to administratively and more quickly assess damages for relatively minor violations. Obviously, both sides would rather there not be any LDs assessed, but in the event that it becomes necessary, we can do it quicker and cheaper than going to court. And the amounts and the types of violations are on par with other large counties like Anne Arundel County and of course Montgomery County. We put in the agreement the ability to have performance evaluation sessions at least once every 3 years. This is a public meeting that will give people and the county the opportunity to have these public hearings to discuss Comcast's performance, and even have reasonable document requests for their cooperation. We also increased the drop distance, which is the number of feet a house is from the cable running along a public right-of-way. This new agreement increases the drop distance Comcast is required to give customer service for free from 125 feet to 300 feet. So it gives people, again, in more rural areas and with long driveways, the capability to have service without an additional burden of cost. Again, keeping in mind rural areas, and this isn't just for rural areas, but some of these things are unique, that because of the character of northern Baltimore County and the fact that some roads are private access roads, and private roads to private access roads before you then get to a public road, we have put in the agreement that those sort of secondary private roads and long driveways will get the same access that a home on a public road will. It doesn't go all the way as far as tertiary and really remote areas, but it gets those primary and secondary private roads. And then we also increased the performance bond amount from $50,000, which is what it had been for many years, and we've upped that to $200,000, which again is more in line with larger jurisdictions. So I think I've taken enough time, but these are the main highlights of the agreement. I think we did a good job at balancing the Comcast concerns as a private business with the county's concerns and the county residents' concerns about cable TV service. I also want to say that, and I didn't say this at the work session, but obviously it takes two to tango, and we would not have been able to come to this agreement if Comcast had not worked with us and their representatives that were involved in the negotiations to come to an agreement that our team believes is fair to both sides. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary, Councilman Katz?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I can't begin to tell you how important this contract is to many of the thousands of people in my district in northern Baltimore County. At the beginning of this term, indeed was a goal of mine, and I know of the administration, to provide the citizens of northern Baltimore County with access to internet. And between the state funding, federal funding, and local funding, plus this contract, we've gone a long way, a very long way, in providing cable services to the larger majority of the people who live in rural Baltimore County. During the COVID pandemic, we know that our students were learning via the internet, and I can't begin to tell you what a problem it was that so many of the students in northern Baltimore County had difficulty accessing the internet. So I can't begin to tell you how happy I am with this contract, how happy I am that we have made so much progress. I certainly want to thank Mr. Davis for all of the efforts that he's made, Mr. O'Connor, and our Mr. Bostwick and Mr. Phillips for all the work that they've done. I appreciate the being kept up to date of what's going on. To be honest with you, I was very worried after the first year, 2 years, because it looked as though no progress was being made at all. So it's just a great thing for the people of my district. And it's something that everybody on this council and the administration should be very proud of. And I thank you all very much for your efforts.
Thank you very much, Councilman Katz. Any additional questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, go right ahead.
I'm just curious, we didn't have a Comcast representative, I don't believe, at the work session or at today's legislative session. It struck me as odd that they're the key stakeholder along with community, that they're not present. Don't they have a government and community relations staff person?
Well, Mr. Patoka, I will say we didn't, and maybe that's my bad, but we didn't ask them to be on the call since we had gone through the heavy lifting with them over and come to an agreement with them, and they of course signed the agreement, and it's now in our hands. So my apologies for that.
Gotcha, no worries. As you know, I've had my issues with Comcast, but given the work that you, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Davis, and Ms. Dubin have put in on this, and also the comments of my colleague, Councilman Katz, I'm going to not be negative on this and support this. Although, like I said, you know, I've had some issues with Comcast.
Thank you, Councilman Patoka. Any additional questions or comments? Well, I asked Mr. Bostwick to explain, and he got into a lot of detail. And let me just summarize what happened. I mean, to make a very long story short, for folks that may not know, it's up to the county council to enter into an agreement with the cable providers for the county. That said, we assembled a team. The team consisted of, the folks that have been listed already, Mr. Bostwick, Mr. Davis, Mr. Phillips, Mr. O'Connor, and a few others, Ms. Dubin. And basically that team went out, negotiated a contract, researched other contracts from other jurisdictions, did it without costing the county what other jurisdictions would pay, somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 or more. They were able to negotiate a very good contract, just as good as anyone else. And they did it basically, like I said, in-house, which says something to the expertise of the people we have here and the dedication. And they saved us a tremendous amount of money, and they produced a product or a contract that's going to bring much needed service to many of our residents in the rural areas of the county who have been waiting for quite some time for that service. So they certainly all deserve a round of applause. Thank them so much for their work and efforts. We certainly appreciate it. Are there any additional questions or comments? Did I summarize it good, Mr. Boswick?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know if Rob or John want to say anything, but just, letting it out there.
All right.
I do want to just quickly say thank you to all the members and everyone that worked on this. We did take the best from all sorts of national contracts. I do think that Baltimore County has developed what I would now call a model franchise agreement. So as other counties work on their own agreements, I would not be shocked if ours is one that is reflected in others. So yeah, I'm very happy with this and glad that it is completed. So thank you to the team.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Davis, any comment?
Yeah, again, I just want to echo Rob's sentiments. I want to thank the council, thank all my team members, Mr. Boswick, Mr. Phillips, Sue Dubin, and Rob, of course, for, assisting in this process. It's been a long time coming, but I think we have a great product. And like Rob said, this is going to be a model for other franchise agreements from around the country. I also want to thank Comcast. I think a lot of times, we use the word partnership with a lot of vendors and different things. And sometimes that's not necessarily the case. But I will say that the people that we worked with at Comcast, Matt Schiffermiller, a few others, were very, very good to work with. It took a while to get this negotiation completed, but I want to thank them as well. I think we do have a good product, and ultimately it's going to serve the citizens of the county very well. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to throw you a curve, Mr. Davis. I'm going to throw you a curveball for you and Rob.
I'm a baseball player. I can hit it.
Okay, good. Below and inside. So here it is. I was sitting here trying to calculate the value of this contract. And I'm going to give you my methodology in a minute, but I came up with somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $28 million. We established $500,000 for the negotiation. I'm talking about the value of the contract. I just calculated what I thought was the number of Comcast customers at $200 a month.
Your numbers are very close. I would say from a franchise perspective, we receive 5% of TV revenue from Comcast annually. Annual intake is in the neighborhood of $1.8 million. So this is a 10-year agreement. So you can do the math on that. It's just shy of $20 million. And then we're also going to receive about $800,000 a month from PEG fees as well. So that's about another $5 million. So your calculations are very, very, very close.
John, I don't mean to correct your math.
I don't write once a day.
John, correction maybe on the math. I believe it's 1.8 million a quarter. Tom, am I correct there?
Yes. Right. So I think we're close to we're like between 6 and 7 million a year. Correct.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So Mr. Jones, you are in the ballpark, and I was remiss. I did not say it is a 10-year renewal of the agreement.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
The White Marsh Customer Service Center, does anyone know how many employees are there? And also, this commits to them being there for the next decade, correct?
I don't know how many employees are there, Mr. Marks, and they are not required to have it for the full 10-year period, but they need to. I think after 5 years, I believe they need to, if they wish to move it or not have it, we need to be notified and we need to discuss with them the alternative to having that there. In other words, what alternative are they going to offer that will still give county residents the convenience to drop off equipment or pick equipment up?
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Marks, that also was one of the strong sticking points between the two entities, us and Comcast. In many of the national franchise agreements, they have removed the requirement to have brick and mortar in county locations. We stuck to our guns on that one, and we did negotiate the 5-year, and then we would come back and readdress that again if they decided after 5 years to change course.
Yeah, and also let me add that the service center currently in White Marsh Perry Hall area, the White Marsh offices of Comcast is not only a central, it's a central office for them. It's a regional office. So that building, that infrastructure there is not going anywhere. They will keep that for forever. And having the service center, it's only a couple of blocks away from their main infrastructure there in White Marsh. So I believe that'll stay in perpetuity. So it'll be here for quite a while.
I mean, that's a significant provision, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think
Yes.
we're unique. I mean, it's unique to Baltimore County because Comcast happens to have their headquarters in Baltimore County, right? It's not in Harford County or Cecil County or somewhere else. It's in Baltimore County, so that kind of helps us quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just a question about the whole customer service center kind of were issues that I was thinking about. And Mr. O'Connor said that in other jurisdictions, bricks and mortar is disappearing. So I was thinking one of the issues I had thought about was, the White Marsh Customer Service Center is very convenient for a part of the county, but if you live in, let's say, Councilman Quirk's neighborhood, it's a pretty long haul or even my neighborhood or Councilman Jones's neighborhood, to get over to the customer service center in White Marsh. And I didn't know if like other counties had customer service centers, if in 5 years, let's say Comcast decides to revisit their customer service center, is there an opportunity for a West Side customer service center? We have great opportunities. Like right now, we're in process with reimagining Security Square. Are there opportunities there? I just wonder, are we an anomaly that we in fact even have a customer service center? And wonder if you guys could comment on that.
Sounds like it.
I think as Rob indicated, we are, I don't know if anomaly is, but it's certainly not the norm. And so, again, that was, I don't know if we would still be negotiating with them if, as we've discussed, because of Baltimore County's sort of unique position in having a substantial presence of Comcast here in the county, I don't know if they would have been, more difficult to negotiate with on that point or not. But I think the fact that we got them to commit to at least 5 years, and especially when in reality, we know, as John said, it's probably going to be longer than that because of their presence. I don't know if they would have been as willing to, meet us halfway on that if they didn't have otherwise have a presence here. So I think I guess the long-winded answer is, I don't think it is. I think it's a bit of an anomaly, but it's just something that we negotiated and we all worked very hard on. As far as the next go around, if they decide to do something, I'm sure we can try to address that in the future. I'm sure Rob and I would love to have the opportunity to do just that in 5 years, right, Rob?
Yes, Tom, give me a call. There is another Xfinity or Comcast store that is in Owings Mills area. I believe it is in, Councilman Jones, help me with the name of the center. Wegmans.
Oh, that's in the second district.
Foundry Row?
Founder Row, yes, there's one in Founder Row. But going back again, county to county, these Comcast stores are starting to close in certain areas. And that's why Comcast is trying to remove that stipulation from the franchise agreements. So I am happy that we did at least get the 5 years in there, sir. And again, we can readdress this again in 5 years.
Keep them at Foundry Row as well, so that the west side has the same opportunities.
There are some in the city and also in other surrounding counties. I mean, that's where Baltimore County is fortunate that we do connect to many areas.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so the power of the internet, I can tell you, Owings Mills, Baltimore, Jessup, Gaithersburg, Nottingham, which is what we're talking about now, Silver Spring, Bowie, Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C., Riverdale Park, Bel Air, Maryland, Bowie, Annapolis, Frederick, York, PA, Warrington, Virginia, Chambersburg, Virginia. There you have it. All the stores in those locations.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just there is an Xfinity customer center in Canton as well, just over the city line, not too far from Dundalk. And when your dog happens to eat a remote, they are very enthusiastically there to replace the remote control that got confused as a rawhide.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. We're going to have you charged with animal abuse after the meeting. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on resolution 44-22.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Quirk,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Thank
The
you.
ayes have it. The resolution 44-22 is passed. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and everyone on the county council. We very, very much appreciate the support that you've obviously shown tonight and throughout this negotiation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is Resolution 45-22. This is a resolution submitted by the administration requesting approval of a resolution related to the Baltimore County Board of Education authorization for expenditure of non-local funds. This resolution is for introduction only this evening.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, is there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. As is customary, anyone who's registered to speak online prior to the meeting is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Del Castro, are there any speakers?
No, Mr. Chair, there are no speakers registered this evening.
Fantastic. It's always good to hear from the citizens. We'll be here a couple of weeks from now to hear from them again. So that's it. If there's no other questions or comments, the meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.